Let's get nuts.
So I got a friend named Brian Corey Dobbs, and he's a Mars researcher, and another friend named Jean Ward. He's from South Africa, and
Right.
he's a Mars researcher as well. Jean goes through NASA rover and satellite photos with a of Mars with a fine-tooth comb, like spends hours and hours and hours of his free time and finds all this like weird shit. So we go and we do a Mars Disclosure Live every 2 weeks. We have a panel. I host it, and we just react to the shit that they find on Mars or whatever. I have an open mind about Mars, but like I don't know if there's an ancient civilization on there or whatever. Like there could be, there might not be. I don't fucking know, but it's fun
Yeah.
and we have a good time with it. So we do that every 2 weeks. And then I occasionally do live streams when it tickles me, guys. Like so sometimes like I'm like, I need to fucking look at these these UFO files and and so I have my buddy Jason. He usually does that with me as well. So how
What do you
about
think
you
of this?
guys?
What do you think of
Nice
the
one,
disclosure
Dave.
so far?
Say what?
What do you think about the disclosure so far? It's underwhelming.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's disclosure's a weird word, right? I interviewed this guy, Ty Roberts, who I should hook you guys up with, but of the Total Disclosure podcast, and he's like balls deep in like UFO, UAP disclosure. And what is disclosure, right? Like disclosure should be like, you guys probably seen it, like a picture of Trump on a fucking newspaper or something, right? Like, like we've made
Yeah.
contact. Here's the fucking pictures, right?
Yeah,
No.
That's not what we got. The first batch was like a bunch of handwritten you know accounts of like unidentified aerial phenomenon from the military and from police and from civilians from like the 40s and 50s and shit. Plus a bunch of
Yeah.
these like you guys have seen them, like a little fucking bug flies across the screen or
Yeah. Yeah.
something, right?
I know. I know.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think very much of disclosure so far. But we got a movie coming out, guys. Steven Spielberg, Disclosure. Isn't it called
Disclosure Day.
Disclosure? Disclosure
We're always
Day.
talking about it. Yeah,
Mm.
it's like just your reaction there, Dave. First of all, look, thanks a million for coming on. I know you're busy there, and
Thank you for
we've
having me. Yeah, appreciate that.
no, we've been following you for the last few months actually.
Oh,
It's
cool.
funny
You guys
enough.
watch my show?
Yeah,
yeah, man.
I came across
Sweet.
you actually first, and then I was talking about your show with Niall, and I said, "This would be an interesting lad to get on the show because, to be honest, the
Do you guys
more
mind if I smoke?
yeah, work away, man, work away. Jeez,
All right,
we're
sweet,
easy
good.
going here, lad. We're
All right,
not,
cool. Yeah, because I'm gonna rip the whole
all,
time.
all you have to do is look into Niall's background there, and you'll see what kind of lads we are, like, you know.
Right. No, it's all good. Yeah, cool.
No, very good. But yeah, so like just your reaction there is the same as myself and Niall, like disclosure. It's just some fucking ball of suspicion around the whole thing. Like it seems to be like okay, the people that are interested in all these reporters and all these whistleblowers, if you want to call them that, and all these military personnel, they're pushing in Congress and all this, and they're getting bits and pieces. A lot of the stuff like we know of already. Like if you're interested in the field at all,
Right.
and then, but it's like, why are they giving us this information? Like you said, if it's disclosure, it should be Trump sitting at the desk, the Oval Desk, and he coming out with a statement. Not this like this. It's like something from a playbook where they're trying to basically distract from everything going on. Like just the timing of everything, the fucking Epstein files, the war in Iran. UFO files, like it just stinks. Like it stinks of suspicion, of just distraction.
I totally agree. Timing is everything when it comes to this shit, guys, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And also when we're thinking about anything that comes from the media or anything that comes from the government, we should all know by now that there's an angle, right? They're playing an angle, the timing, the messages they're putting out, everything. Gosh, I'm 44. How old are you guys? I'm
I'm
44.
44 as well. I'm
I'm
Oh,
John's
30.
nice.
baby.
I'm 30. I
John,
have
you
a
look
baby
young.
face. I have a baby face, but I'm 30, so I'm not too far behind you boys.
Okay, you're 30. Okay, yeah, you actually look
Yeah.
younger than 30. Good job, man.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, so
It's a
I
bit
mean,
mad.
but not everything from like 9/11 like on, but you can go back to JFK and shit, but like you there's too much to question, and there's too much evidence of lies and deceit that it's hard to really trust anything, right, that they put out there nowadays, unless
Yeah.
it's like, here's the craft, here's the aliens, here's the bodies. Like at this point, it's like I think you see a. Do you guys see a general sentiment of that online too? Like just like whatever, like show us the real shit, you know?
Yeah,
And
it
didn't
was the same with the Artemis trip as well. Like underwhelming
Yeah,
was an understatement. People were just like, "What the fuck?" Like, you know. And I know there's a big debate between the flat earthers and the globe earthers, but I think they were all kind of they were all together on just how bad the footage was that we got, and how, you know, there was a lot of guys wanted to see that world spinning and wanted to see the craft moving further and further away and all that, but they just didn't get much.
yeah. The Artemis trip was weird, right? There
mm,
was like some weird stuff in the footage inside the cabin. There was like a weird thing where like they seem to have replaced that one woman. I can't remember her name, but she looked different early on in the mission before they even launched, like a few months before, and then all of a sudden it seemed like they replaced her with a different person. And maybe they did. Maybe she just got in really good shape or something
I didn't
before the
see that
trip.
now actually.
Yeah, I didn't hear that about
I
that
never
either.
caught that, no.
Yeah, look into it. I'm just blowing smoke up my ass, but like there's a channel. I want to shout this guy out. Sobering Stories. He started his channel like talking about addiction crime because he's a recovering alcoholic, and but
Mm,
he since has gotten into all these like conspiracy topics.
yeah.
And he does really good deep dives. Like he did the best deep dive online I've seen on the missing scientist, the best deep dive I've seen on the Artemis mission. And you know, there was some weird shit that didn't add up. Like there's a in today's day of AI, it's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. But like there
See,
was
that's the
a
problem.
picture,
Yeah.
yeah, there was a picture of what it looked like them in a studio, and then everything that they showed of them talking looked like it was within this like frame of a studio. Um, and you know the pictures were pretty spectacular, some of them. But I watched that, guys. I was like, you know, because I'm a space nerd. Okay, like I got a telescope. I've been
Mm.
reading about space. It's the only thing that I gave a shit about in school. And you know, I just remember watching. Like I watched every second of that mission, and I not once was I like, whoa, this is amazing.
Yeah,
You
it
Yeah,
was
know?
just so underwhelming, like,
yeah. What was the name of that rocket that
God.
exploded? Did that happen? Did you watch that live? Because I think a lot of American
I
children were
didn't.
watching that live in high school, weren't they?
Challenger, I want to
Challenger,
say.
that's the one. Yes, yeah.
Challenger, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, I'm not American, guys. I live in Georgia, the U.S., but I actually grew up in Nova Scotia, Canada. So,
Oh,
Right.
did you? Right.
Yeah, I'm a dual citizen of the U.S. and Canada. I was born in Canada, but I grew up in Nova Scotia. I moved to the U.S. because like my life sucked. I lived in like a shitty neighborhood with around shitty people with
Mm.
not a whole lot of opportunity. And I moved to the U.S. and I joined the military. So when that happened, who knows what I was up to? That was, I think, in 1994 or something like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I was probably up to no good at that point. At that point in my life, I probably wasn't paying attention. But yeah, that Challenger explosion is one of those things where it's like, oh, the world stopped, right? And everyone was talking about it, and all the media was pointed in that direction. And nowadays, when I think about the Orwell eye, like pointing at the media, pointing at something, we should probably be looking around that or looking in the other direction or something like that, because it you can't we can't trust what we see anymore. Or when I say anymore, like I just mean like in the last since COVID, but like you can't trust what we saw in the 80s or 90s either, because it was really easy to fool us back then,
Mm.
It was really easy to fool us, point us all in one direction, in the 80s and 90s. And guys, wasn't life grand back then though at the same time? Like,
Ignorance was
because
kind
Yeah.
of bliss as well,
yeah,
wasn't it? Do you know,
ignorance is bliss. Right now, like
in a
in
sense.
the 80s and 90s, the movies were great, the
Everything was
video
good,
games
man.
were
Yeah, there
good.
was. You know what? Like people think it's rose tinted glasses, but life was really good, and there was a great sense of optimism around that time. And then
There
9/11
was.
hit. 9/11 hit, and it's something changed there. You know.
Something changed, right? What do you guys think changed in 9/11?
Fuck.
No,
I
you
mean,
were deep into 9/11. Like that was kind of your thing that kind of,
no. Do you know what?
do you know what they
The
call
funny
it,
thing is,
awakening.
it was 9/11 that kind of woke me up, if you want to call it that. But
Mm.
it was only like it was in 2010 when I just came across this documentary by accident, and they were talking about Building 7, and that was the first time in my life I realized that I didn't know the first fucking thing about 9/11. Do you know, everyone remembers where they were on
Right.
9/11,
Of
but I
course.
realized I didn't know how many hijackers. I didn't even really know how many targets had been hit. I didn't know anything about the Pentagon footage. Do you know? And it kind of fucking blew my mind when I found out that Building 7 went down, and Building 5 and 6 were in pieces as well. You know, and I was like, how the fuck? This is the biggest event of my life. And I'm realizing not only did I not know anything about it, but they're deliberately leaving big chunks of that story out. And I suppose that was the domino effect for me then, you know?
Yeah. Can I tell you guys where I was at 9/11?
Mm.
Go on.
So I was in Nova Scotia. I had an apartment with my older brother. Um, and I was in college to be a culinary artist, which is like, seems like a fucking lifetime ago. But it seems like 3 lifetimes ago. But we didn't have we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet in our apartment. We were watching old movies on VHS, and I skipped school that day on 9/11. And then the next day, I took the bus to school, to the community college I was going to, and I didn't even know 9/11 happened. It's 9/12. Okay.
Oh,
And
really?
like, yeah, like I think maybe my mom tried to call us on the phone, and we had one of those phones that would like say like it was like caller ID. It was like a big deal.
Mm.
And we like, oh, mom's calling us. She's probably trying to bother us. Whatever. Let's ignore it. I took the bus to school, and when I got to school, this is in Nova Scotia, there was like everywhere, and like kids and like old people and shit. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I went to where my locker was supposed to be, and there was all these like tables like lined up, and I still had no idea what was happening. And there was a friend of mine who didn't go to that school, who was like volunteering, and he was like in front of my locker. His name was Kevin. And I was like, what's going on? Like, I need to get to my locker. I got to get to class. He's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean? What am I talking about? It's fucking class. Who are all these people? He like gets around, he walks around the table, he grabs me by the arm and he drags me into the cafeteria and he points at the TV. And that's when I see the fucking towers going boom, boom, the planes flying into the towers. And I didn't have any like chance to react really. I just like went right to the cafeteria and spent the next like 4 days serving people because people had been families from flights going into New York and the surrounding areas were diverted to Halifax, which is like, right on the east coast of Canada. And so we had about 6,000 refugees spread about like different community colleges in Nova Scotia. And I just spent 3 days like sleeping there, feeding people and shit. And even then, like, I didn't really understand what happened. I had this buddy, shout out Rodney, but he still lives in the same house, and I bet you can still buy weed from him in the same house. But you'd knock on his window, his basement window, and then you'd climb in his window because his dad lived upstairs, and then you'd like smoke. You had to smoke weed with him, or you couldn't buy weed. So like I was the plug. I was the plug. So I would go like pick up weed for me and my buddies, but I'd sit there for like an hour or two smoking weed with this guy. And this was like in 2001, 2012, 2002, I mean. And he'd be showing me all this shit on the internet about 9/11, and I'd just be like, "Oh, whatever, Rodney, just fucking smoke the weed. Let me get out of here," right? And Rodney knew way back then that they weren't telling us the full truth about that. But I think that's the first time, guys, we got the full dose of mass media and what mass media can do to control a population. And not just the population of the United States. I mean, I was in Canada at the time. You guys were in Ireland, right? Where do you guys live in Ireland? Are you guys in the same place?
Limerick.
Yeah, Limerick. So it'd be down south.
Down
Southwest.
south, okay.
Yeah, we're just across the water from you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and,
right beside Shannon Airport, their Air Force One, there's literally, they drop there, or they stop there anytime they need to refuel, don't they? If they need to refuel.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were refueling there for the war after 9/11. There was a bit of controversy here. There was always the usual protesters and shit.
Because we're supposed to be neutral.
About the like Iraq and Afghanistan wars?
Yeah, just kind of saying, we're supposed to be neutral and this kind of shit. But these most of the time these kinds of protesters are they're usually funded by NGOs, and they're not generally sincere people. They're most of the time they're fucking paid to protest, that kind of way.
Yeah, I think there's a good bit of that.
They're crisis actors, yeah.
A lot of it, yeah.
Have you guys ever heard that term, crisis actor?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about one there recently, John, weren't you? You saw something. Was it on Irish television? Yeah, it was people being interviewed by our equivalent of Fox or CNN. We just have one. There's no real competing one. It's called RTE.
RTE.
Okay.
Radio Television Ireland. Radio Television Ireland. But
Propaganda Ireland.
Yeah, it's like fucking China here. Like, we just got the one broadcaster really, and that's the Bible for, as far as the 55 and up people would say.
Yeah, why is it the 55 and up? Yeah, I have a theory about this. It's not a theory, but I think it's pretty true. But the 55 and up are the ones who like grew up believing TV was real, right? And Niall and I are just under that radar. And so our parents and people are 10, 20, 30 years older than us, like they watch TV, and they go, oh my gosh, this is happening. And maybe it is happening, right, guys? But it's probably not happening the way that they're saying it is on TV. But you can that's online too, it's not just TV. But like as I was saying, like mass media, 9/11, that's the first time we saw like the power of that. Then we saw the
Yeah,
full power of it during COVID, right, boys? I mean,
Mm.
that was
you guys were
nuts.
in Ireland, which like so I can I ask you, I really want to know. So living here, so I have a lot of family in Canada, friends in Canada. They were
Mm.
on straight up lockdown for 2 years. Like I was seeing like they were having like birthday parties where they'd be like out on the front lawn with like 6 feet apart in chairs wearing masks outside like a year and a
Yeah.
half after COVID. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
here in Georgia, where I live, within 3 months, it was really kind of up to you. So most people were like, just like, because in 3 months later, you'd go to the grocery store and some people would have masks on, some people wouldn't, some people would be
yeah, yeah,
staying
yeah.
away from you, some people wouldn't. What was it like in Ireland during that time?
Well, it was
Ooh.
kind of a thing that it was. So there'd be like little, for example, it might say for 3 months or for 2 weeks. Sorry, for 2 weeks, or like it started off for 2 weeks or something, didn't
Two
it, Niall?
weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, 2 weeks to of a
We all got
lockdown.
that one.
Mm.
Yeah, and then it was like, and then again, everyone sheep mentality for the masses. Let's pay attention to the RT news. There is
Mm.
2 cases of COVID-19.
Yeah.
There is 14 cases of
Yeah, I
COVID-19.
remember
Yeah.
that. We were doing
This
that
shit.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the people were waiting. What's the next plan? It's another 2 weeks, another month. Do you know what? Like I was working in the time in a retail shop. So I was doing that with college, and I didn't really get the full experience of a lockdown, if that makes sense, because I was working
Yeah. Well, there was
with
a
the
lot of
lockdown.
people who like were mandatory
Yeah,
Mm.
people.
yeah. What do they call them again?
The frontline workers
Yeah.
or something. They
Yeah, yeah,
because they're
yeah.
on the front lines, risking their
But
lives.
we'd a five
Yeah.
kilometer radius. Had you guys that? 5 kilometer
What,
radius.
what was that? What's a 5 kilometer
We
radius?
weren't allowed
Okay.
to travel more than 5K from our homes without a reasonable, and we were, you know, we weren't even allowed to leave our homes without it, without having a reason. And
Ah.
usually the reason had to be you're going for a medical appointment or you're going for groceries. And the
Would you
police
get
would
stopped
stop
for
us here.
that?
Yeah, they would stop us,
There'd be
and
checkpoints as well.
like every day about in the car, and
Oh,
Yeah.
the policeman would
wow.
stop you, and he would say, "What's the purpose of your
Where are
journey?"
you going? Yeah.
And you'd have to say,
Oh
"I'm going to
man.
the shop." Oh, it was
You
fucking
know,
crazy, and they loved it. The guard or the Gardaí here, we call them the police here, the Gardaí. They a lot of them they
A
loved it.
lot
You
of
know,
them. A lot of them
it
did,
was
but
you know
that's
what's
easy
where
weird
the
work
about the
from a lot of
psychology.
US?
overtime.
The
What's that?
US is like the weird thing about the US is that like it was different state by state based on like political affiliation or whatever. So it was I'm sure it was similar in California and New York, but here in Georgia, like I said, like 3 months afterwards, I remember the day. So I remember like within 2 to 3 weeks, I was like running at the park, and there was no one at the park. And I went into the bathroom. And you remember, like, you couldn't go indoors without a mask on. Like, that was like a big thing.
Yeah.
There was no one at the park and no one in the bathroom. And I had a mask in my pocket. And I remember, like, it was like 2.5, 3 weeks later. I was like, should I put this mask on? I'm like, no, I'm not fucking putting this thing on. And I just went and I
Mm.
took a piss. And then I remember about 3 months later, I was at the grocery store and there was dudes walking around in the grocery store with no mask on. I was with my wife, and I'm like, I'm not putting this shit on either. Because I remember a couple weeks before that, I was like talking to a dude at the grocery store, and there was like he didn't have a mask on, but I did. And the only reason I was putting one on was because my wife was like freaked out about the whole thing, right? And
Yeah.
I
There's.
stopped. But what's interesting about it was like it could divide a whole household.
Yeah,
So, COVID started happening when, like February, March ish
March.
of
Yeah,
2021,
March. Yeah, yeah.
2020.
2021,
Or 2020.
2020. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. My bad. And then it was November, and I hadn't been wearing a mask for months, and but my wife, she just got home. I just waved to her, so I gotta say this quietly. But she was still like all in on this stuff, and most of it was because her parents are old, her mom has a heart condition. You don't want to kill old people, do you? That sort of thing.
Mm.
And Mike Tyson was going to fight Roy Jones Jr. It was like the return of Mike Tyson. And I'm a big fight fan, right? So I had a couple friends coming over. It was like, I was so excited. I was like, some normalcy, right?
Mm.
Mike Tyson is coming. Mike Tyson is fighting. This reminds me of the 90s,
Nostalgia.
Nostalgia. There's no COVID. 3 of my buddies are coming over. We're going to fucking eat some pizza and have a couple brews. It's going to be good. And my wife was like so freaked out. She wanted us to like open the basement windows. I'm in the basement right now where I got my man cave and stuff like that with my big old TV. And, she wanted me to open the windows. And then I like went upstairs and she was like laying on the bed, like all stressed out because I had like 2 or 3, I think my brother and 2 friends over and I wasn't going to open the window or make them wear a mask. And like, it was just the weirdest time in history.
Weird. So weird, lad.
But you saw the power of the mass media able to control not just one population of a country, but a population of the entire world. Except for you can go to like indigenous like Australia or like indigenous Africa or whatever, and these motherfuckers weren't wearing masks. You know what I mean?
No. They subconsciously saw through the bullshit, like.
Well, or they just weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
Or they're surviving through other shit, you know?
Mm. The Australian government were psychopathic, though. I was seeing clips.
They were one of the worst.
They went
Canada
nuts,
and the US were Canada and Australia were one of the worst.
And New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, man, Jesus Christ.
New Zealand were bad as well.
They were fucking awful. But we were bad here as well. And, the funny thing is like that, you're talking about the power of the media and stuff, but, they were telling us in the first couple of weeks here that there was going to be mobile morgues and there wasn't going to be spaces for the bodies and they're going to have to put bodies into hotel rooms and shit. And they were showing us images of people dropping dead on the street in China, and they were showing us pictures of like warehouses like with all these dead bodies, and then all of that went away. Like, so people initially the first couple of weeks were thinking we're going to be seeing people dropping like flies right in front of us. It's like a movie where the virus just succumb to the virus in broad daylight and drop dead on the side of the street. And when that didn't happen, they still continued to believe whatever they were told,
Yep. And now looking back, does it seem rather obvious that was entirely coordinated?
Yeah, like when you're talking about 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then all these politicians around the world, all of them are saying build back better. All of them were saying it, from the UK to Ireland to Australia to America, New Zealand. They were all saying, it's like, lads, it's very obvious that they're all singing off the same hymn sheet.
I don't like to call myself a conspiracy theorist, guys, but like when you see that kind of evidence where you can watch a montage of like reporters from all across the US and all across Canada and all across the world essentially saying the exact same thing. That is rather obvious and also rather scary, right?
Yeah.
Like you see as well, like it's coming out again, and Fauci. What's the story with him? Like, I know there was this whistleblower, the CIA guy that was looking into, was it the what would you call it, the record keeping, or how they actually carry through, I don't know, audits or something like that, wasn't it? And he figured out that there was files going missing. No, that Fauci was actually the conspiracy of Fauci gain of function and misleading the public and all this, that there's truth to it. Did you see that? You see that in the last few weeks?
I don't know if I saw that in the last few weeks, but I don't know that that's a conspiracy anymore.
But see,
the gain of function was there was organizations, and I can't like speak on this like with like all the facts, but
yeah,
I know that there was like organizations within the United States, funded by like the U.S. government,
Mm.
that was doing gain of function research both here in the United States and in China during
Yeah.
that time. And I don't think that's a conspiracy anymore.
No, but it was a conspiracy. Like, but now
It
obviously it's something
was,
that's
yeah,
been
yeah.
turned over, and saying about this lab leak that there is something about this, linking it to biological viruses that were being tampered with, um, possibly over in Wuhan. And then Tulsi Gabbard was saying, we were talking about this now, that files were taken from her office by the CIA apparently.
That happened about a month ago, right?
That happened a month ago, yeah, and they never came back. They're trying to figure out why they never came back.
And then
Isn't that
she
it?
resigns. She just resigned.
Is she trying to? She's just obviously trying to cover her own arse there.
Well, yeah,
Is
she don't
she?
want to die.
Yeah,
You know, she
yeah,
Yeah.
and also she wants out. Think about how stressful it must be to be like read in on even some of this stuff, right?
yeah.
Even if her life isn't actually at risk, she's read in on some of it. She's got a husband who's got cancer, and she's like, because even somebody at the level of Tulsi Gabbard, within the U.S. government, there's really nothing that she can do about it, right? There's
And
really
it
nothing she can do about the overall conspiracy. It's just
mm,
what makes me pause occasionally is how is it possible that they can coordinate all this? Like, because when you watch the news, it seems like, all these liberal European countries hate the United States, and United States, it's like, but at the same time, they're all pushing the same messages for years. And so it makes you go, how can you possibly coordinate it? And I think that how they coordinate it is bipartisanship, right? So no matter what, um, like here in the US, the same story goes out. It's just flavored to the left or flavored to the right, And you guys get the same thing too, but I'm betting it's mostly flavored to the left. Am I
Yeah.
I
correct?
don't. I don't
Both.
watch the
Both.
news. Do you watch the news now? Or,
I
I
don't
don't watch it,
either.
but I
uh,
don't, but I'm well aware that like there's only left leaning politicians in Ireland now at this point. You got a handful of nationalists, but they're not going anywhere really. You know.
Can I
mm,
ask you, Niall? Because this is what I see. Like, I don't watch the news, but this is what I see like in my YouTube and internet research. But the UK and Ireland, and I have a friend named Ronnie who he's Irish, and you guys should have him on your show. He's great. But
right, right.
is is so these liberal policies, like, including, I have to be careful, including mass, like, acceptance of immigration, like, really a problem, or is that just something that the right wing media in the United States is telling me?
It's a big problem.
No, it's a problem. It's a big problem. Like like the
We've talked
demographic
about this a
change
lot.
in Ireland is it's quite staggering actually in the last few years,
It's like that here in
and it's
Georgia.
from a lot of it is from very incompatible cultures. Like we had a lot of Polish come into Ireland, at the turn of the century or the turn of the millennium,
But that's
and
compatible,
we
right?
but we've got on very well. There was like a
Yeah.
little bit of teething pains at the start. There was a few fighting, but you'd hear stories of guys getting in fights in bars and stuff like that. But it kind of fizzled out real quick. And the Polish, never met a rude one. They're all sound. They're very like us, and they
My
didn't come here with
editor's
an attitude. They
Polish.
didn't come here with an attitude. Sorry.
My
His
editor is
editors.
Polish.
Okay. Yeah.
He's also an author. I'm going to make sure you guys bring him on the show. But yeah,
Cool.
Polish people are
Oh,
nice,
brilliant.
and Polish culture generally interacts well with, like, Western European culture, right?
Yeah, I mean, we
100%.
as a nation, we'd be a Christian nation, a very kind of maybe lax on our Christianity. Not the people aren't really practicing, but the culture still remains, you know. And the I think we share a foundation with a lot of Europeans. But when you're talking about, you know, Syrians and Afghans and Somalians, and these aren't compatible. And you know, you've got a lot of Muslims coming into the country as well, and you know, I'm not saying that they're all bad, but you know, there's
No, of
going
course not.
we are getting we are there is a small percentage that are dangerous, you know, and there's like as an example, like there's a lot of Nigerians in Ireland now, and there's a Nigerian gang called Black Axe in Ireland, and like they have no business in Ireland. What the fuck is going on? That our government has
Mm.
allowed that to happen. That's just a
Yeah.
There's
crazy
a
fuck up. Like,
Nigerian gang in Ireland. Like,
yeah, yeah, and they're dangerous bastards. And you know, we have our own thugs. We, you know, we have our own rough
of
people,
course.
but
Yeah, every place does.
but at the same time, like we're experiencing now, for example, like we're experiencing people being raped in broad daylight, being stabbed and murdered in broad daylight. There was an incident recently where a guy just ran into someone's house and tried to rape a girl inside in the house with her brother inside in the house, you know. And while we have our own animals, we don't have the kind of animal that doesn't have the foresight to know I'm going to be caught doing this, you know, that they just have, they just, I think a lot of them are very low IQ as well, you know, and when you're dealing with a level of savage
Well,
that
and
we're not
they're
used to.
coming from a third world country,
Mm,
you know, so it
Yeah.
might not even be
What's
an IQ thing. It just might be a cultural, like where you grew up thing.
mm.
mm.
And it's like, and yeah, it might be an IQ thing too. I don't know. But I just wondered because like, you know, it's hard for me to trust what I get from the media, and the right wing media over here says, oh, the foreigners are invading the UK and Ireland, and
Mm.
yada yada, and they're just have these open border policies. But we have that we had that here as well for 4 years. Where well for four, and then not for four, and then for another four, and you know where I live in Georgia, it's not that bad.
Okay.
What we have is um, extreme like uh, development. So they're developing neighborhoods and apartment buildings and yada yada. Like out here, where am I? Yeah, out there is a country road. Cows, goats. Like it's a country road. But then on one end and on the other, they're standing up these apartment buildings. And what we're getting is an influx in Indians. And Indians are great. Indian culture is they're very compatible with Western culture. They fit right in. They start businesses. They're very peaceful. They're very cultured,
Yeah.
and they enjoy it. They enjoy it. But it's I don't think it's the same in other states. And then you've got the southern border issue, which I don't have like a whole lot of knowledge on, guys. But what I do know is that for 8 out of the last 12 years, we've had probably a good, like a 20% population increase strictly from south of the border.
Mm.
My wife is Mexican. She's a Mexican immigrant. Her parents and family are Mexican.
Cool.
And they're great. They're super nice, peaceful people. But
Yeah.
there was an literal open border where like there was border policy, but it wasn't being enforced because it couldn't be enforced. There was just frankly too many people coming across the border. So if you say 90% of those people are peaceful people trying to escape like, a shitty situation, okay, fine. But what if 10% of those people are, you know, a Mexican and Colombian drug cartel family members who are then
Mhm.
having children in the United States, and then now you have heirs to Mexican and Colombian drug cartels in the United States. That's a problem. And that's not compatible with the United States, right? And United
No.
States culture. But if you bring this full circle to, UFOs and UAPs and stuff like that, um, think about it. All this open border stuff started happening in when, like short in the 3 to 4 years before COVID, 2017 ish, right?
Yeah,
Right
But for
yeah,
us,
when
for us, it was really started happening during the lockdown. We were all pointing
during
out
the
like
lockdown.
we're bringing in refugees. We're not allowed outside our house. You know, they're talking about vaccine passports for us, and there's people coming into the country without passports.
yeah,
You know,
exactly. Yeah, spot on.
so it was a weird time because it was a massive contradiction. Like where now we're bringing people in, we don't know their vaccination status, but they're still allowed in. You know.
And
But
we
like
mentioned
lads,
timing, right? Sorry, go ahead,
Mm.
John.
yeah, timing, yeah, but like you're on about and I was doing it. I went down through I told you now a couple of weeks ago. I went down through this rabbit hole on Google AI, Gemini, and I was trying to. I genuinely it was an hour and a half at 1:30 a.m. and I was just getting more angrier and angrier and angrier. And I was talking about
Oh
like,
yeah, it'll do it.
yeah, but it was going into how much of the Irish government's money is being wasted in housing immigrants that they have no interest in trying to bring into the workforce. And it's like, what the fuck? And how many people are profiting off this? Um, and some of these people are politicians and they're putting on this face that we're here to fight for you, the Irish people,
Mm.
but behind it all, I'm after earning 200 million euro last year in housing, all these immigrants coming in. Yeah. Look, but moving on to the point of personally, I've no issue with anyone coming into the country, my own country, Ireland, if they are willing to work, not force their ideologies onto the culture that we have, and just like weave yourself into the culture, adapt into the culture, have your own belief systems, whatever. Don't be forced on anyone else, and just become a part
Become
of our
Irish.
society
Be Irish. Be an
or
Irish
whatever.
person who
Yeah,
like is from another country. Like
And
that's
see
yeah,
not
the
that hard.
the issue that I have though, like you were talking about, like Indians and stuff, and like the issue I have with people, even the legal immigration, there's so many coming in from India, and there are a lot of them in high paid jobs, and
Yeah. Oh
they're able
yeah.
to
Here
price
too.
they're able to price ordinary Irish citizens out of the housing
yeah,
market,
yeah.
and we have 1.5 million people
That
in Ireland now who weren't born
that's
here, and there's only
happening
four and
here.
a half million of us. So
What? That's like
it's,
that's more than a quarter. Holy shit.
yeah, yeah. So and
No,
that's happened very quickly. And if you're like John's age now and you're trying to buy a house, and if you somehow manage to scrape the money together to get a new house in a new housing estate, the likelihood is that 95% of your neighbours will be Indian. And
That's what it's
that's not
like
fair.
here.
That's not fair for Irish
And
people either. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to be around
mm.
your own. And there's nothing wrong. They're going to stick to their own too. That's just natural. But there's a billion Indians, and there's only 5 million Irish. You know.
I'll tell you a good one there. I won't say exactly who it is because if he does listen onto the podcast, say, John, why the fuck did you mention me? But I know this guy who is involved in building houses in Limerick City. And he was telling me that the majority of the houses were being bought up by Indian doctors and engineers coming in.
yeah,
Now,
that's what it's like here.
yeah, but why is that happening, guys? You can't blame the Indians for coming in and taking the
No,
jobs.
no, of course
Look, they're
not. They're
skilled. They're
highly
skilled
educated.
workers.
They're
There you
hardworking.
go. Yeah, hardworking. I've a lot of Indian friends. Again, I'm not putting out that I'm fucking racist against Indians, but what I'm saying
No.
is that them Irish doctors and engineers are choosing and kind of being forced in a way to go to Australia or all these places to maybe earn enough to eventually come back and build a house in Ireland. If that kind of makes sense, I'm doing that. That's I'm simplifying that now, but it's a lot more complex than that. But what happens then is you have a lot of Irish skilled people that are gone. Like me personally, I'm gone teaching to Dubai. I'm actually in Sri Lanka now, for a
What?
week.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah. I should have slipped that
What do
in
you
at the
teach?
start. I'd be in engineering and technology, secondary school.
And you're in
But
Sri Lanka teaching right now?
sorry, no, I teach in Dubai since last August, but we have a week off. It's actually a religious holiday,
You're in
and
Dubai right now?
I'm in Sri Lanka right now for the week off.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, so like me as a teacher back home, right? There's no way that I could go out and buy a house currently in the market. I'd have to live at home with my mother at home. Look, I've known it, but who wants to be doing that at 30 years of age? But people are going to have to do it.
That's what it's like here.
Yeah, same thing.
Americans here in Georgia, young people in their 25, 30 years old, they're it takes three of them to live in an apartment to afford an apartment. Apartments are
Yeah.
$2,500 a month, and most of these people make 2,500 a month. So they're, and you don't count, the massive inflation on groceries. I mean, I went to the grocery store today, and I didn't even buy food. I bought like condiments and some croutons. I bought some fucking uh, I bought some food, like I bought some iceberg lettuce and shit. But the point is, I spent like $77 on like
Yeah.
I went through the ten item line, and I spent 77 US
Yeah.
dollars. And so
Yeah,
I'm
it's
grateful. I'm
crazy shit.
lucky that like I'm in a position where I can kind of afford that. But because I bought my house in 2018,
Mm,
I had a good, well-paying job between 2016 and 2021, and so I'm lucky. But most people here, they're living in three people to an apartment. And then what happens is, like you mentioned, Indians with like engineering degrees, medical degrees, and things like that are, like I said, very hardworking people,
yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
industrious. They save their money, they make good decisions, they don't get
Mm,
themselves into debt, and then they're the ones buying all the houses in all these neighborhoods, and then they buy these big ass houses. We're talking mansions, and their whole family lives there. So
yeah,
they're every you go to the shopping centers around here, and it's half Indian. Doesn't bother me because in
mm,
any way it doesn't make me feel unsafe or anything. I mean, these people are very well put together, very kind, very good looking people. They're
mm,
not like they're not a problem, but the problem is, I suppose, is culture replacement. And I don't I don't see that as an emergent issue like here in Georgia. But when Niall, you say like 1.5 to 4.5,
Mm.
that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
mm,
That
mm,
is
mm.
that is strong. That is like not that's an emergency,
Yeah.
if you ask
And
me,
we're
because the Irish culture is very important to the world, you know?
yeah, I agree. And yeah, they're outbreeding us as well. Because like John said,
Of course, yeah.
you've got 30, if you're 30 years old and you're living with your parents, you're not doing what you should be doing, which is, finding a woman and settling down and having your own place and starting a family. But,
Mm.
when you can afford to have a family, you'll have plenty of kids, and these people will.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and when I say the Irish culture is important to the world, I really, really, really mean that, because it's a distinct culture that's existed for a very, very, very long time. And it's a culture that everyone is familiar with, that everyone appreciates. And then if you look at ratios and how fast this is happening, because you're talking since 2021, 2020, 1.5, like that's wild. And then when you talk about job replacement and things like that, it makes me think about, um and this is something that like I don't talk about a lot, but I think about a lot. And
Mm.
I think we're barreling towards a one world government. And I think if we want to bring this full circle, that's where the UFO component comes in. We create a few catastrophes. So we're talking 9/11, we're talking COVID and other things in between. And then we use these things to steal our freedoms, our independence, to shift the markets in different directions that support like globalist interests and things like that. And then all of a sudden, starting in 2017 and then ramping up in the last year and a half, is this UFO thing, right? And I've been following it's backwards for some reason, but I got my I Want to Believe poster behind me.
It comes in for us. It comes in straight. Like I can see it. It's coming in with the right perspective. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah. And this here is the Lord of the Rings, the nine riders against the right. It's Legolas and all the whole crew, but they're actually at a lighthouse in Nova Scotia called I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it's a lighthouse in Nova Scotia, and but the point is I've been following UFOs since I was a kid. I watched the first episode of the X-Files air live, and then I bought a compressed set of the entire 9 seasons. There's now 11 because it came out with 2 extra ones.
Yeah.
But I bought them off of. I don't know if this is like a get you banned off YouTube word, so I won't say it. But off an Iraqi guy in downtown Baghdad. I had a moment to step out of the truck because I wasn't allowed out of the truck very often because I was the medic. But I was out of the truck and I was standing there, and he had this whole rack of DVDs, and I bought all 9 seasons of the X-Files, and I watched them in my trailer in Iraq, like religiously every day. Wow. And I had this I have this theory that the X-Files was prophetic in a lot of ways, but not in the way that people might think. Do you guys watch the X-Files? You guys seen the X-Files?
Yeah. I kind of got John into watching it there recently enough, but yeah, I watched it like you. I kind of followed it as a kid as well,
John, have you seen? How much have you seen?
I have. I've kind of picked episodes that.
Yes, you need to pick episodes.
Love. Yeah, but Niall kind of got me into it. I did see bits of episodes the last couple of years, but I was always aware of it. But you're gonna laugh. I've been obsessed about the whole UFO thing. I'm thinking maybe back as far as 2015, something like that. And because I actually started watching Ancient Aliens, and I know you had Paul Wallace.
Ancient Aliens.
You had Paul Wallace on as well.
Yeah.
This was a full. Myself and Niall talk about synchronicities there, and we literally had him on. I think just before you, and then I said to Niall, I said, "Fuck Niall," and Dave is after getting on Paul Wallace. We're gonna have to reach out to this lad, and
I love it.
I was talking to Paul Wallace.
I love Paul Wallace too, isn't he? The best?
Yeah, he's a cool guy, man.
He's such a good communicator, and his knowledge is just like that.
He's able to speak off the top of his head, no ums or buts or anything like that. Yeah, and he's walked the walk, so you can take what he says. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And Tues Van Daniken was obviously a prolific face on the Ancient Aliens. Sure, he inspired the whole show. But since then, I just got obsessed. But I never really got into the X-Files until Niall told me, "John, I'm rewatching the X-Files. You got to start watching it." Because Niall was saying there's a lot of stuff that's happening the last few years with all these orbs, and it was literally in season 1 of the X-Files.
Episode 1.
Oh yeah, episode 1.
I was like, Jesus Christ.
Episode 1. So there you're going about the prophetic stuff that's after been happening years.
So my X-Files thing is that Fox Mulder was being led by his nose, and the whole point of it was he was being shown what they want him to see, and only that. and then he'd get so far, and then you get the rug pulled out under him, and then he'd get on another trail, and then they'd show him what they want him to see, and the whole time he's being led by his nose by this conspiracy of people who were in contact with extraterrestrials. And I think that we're all Fox Mulder right now. I think we're all being led around by our nose right now. I think the timing is perfect. John mentioned Epstein files, okay, and he also mentioned the Iran war, right? Because think about it. When the Iraq and Afghanistan wars were going on, that's all you saw in the news, okay? When COVID was happening, that's all you saw in the news. Right now, like you don't, like you do see Iran war and Epstein files kind of on the news, but right now it's also being inundated by UFO shit. And this is like the weirdest time of my life, because right now I never would have thought in a million years are talking about UFOs. I went on a podcast. I can't remember the name of the guy's name off the top of my head. Sorry, dude. But he Jack Murphy, the Jack Murphy podcast, and it was because my brother's father-in-law was like a famous radio host here in Atlanta. And he's also like a regular actor in like TV and shit. He's like in his 70s. But him and this guy Jack Murphy do this podcast, and they brought me on to talk about like UFOs and shit like that. And these are people Niall mentioned in the 55 plus age who never in a million years would have like considered UFOs seriously. Right? But now it went from a slow drip to all of a sudden like a pour. We got two UFO dumps in batches in 2 weeks. But that started in 2017 with the New York Times article. Yeah. Then it went to the quote whistleblowers. And all the skiffs in Congress and blah, blah, blah over the last 3 to 4 years. But the timing of all of a sudden, the fucking name of the website is war.gov/UFO. Like that
aliens
in itself.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Jesus Christ.
That in itself is just wild to think about. And it's my belief that they're using the public interest in UFOs to distract us, to psyop us, to point us in the other direction, because they can't do another Middle East war blatantly out in public as mainstream news, because literally no one wants that. Okay, literally no one does. No one thinks that's the best in the best interests of their nation. Okay.
Yeah.
And
sorry, Dave. Twas slash UFO. You were right. It wasn't.
No worries.
I'm
gonna be showing this tonight at 6:00 my time live. So.
So you were right. I was wrong. It wasn't aliens.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. Slash UFO. Like that's crazy.
It's nuts.
Like that's. I'm not. So here in the U.S., you get two choices. You can vote Republican or you can vote Democrat, okay? I'm not afraid to admit this last time around. I went Democrat, and at the top of the ballot, I went Trump. Because I've been a fucking Democrat my whole life. I voted for Trump because I believed, and not that I believed, I wanted
to believe, yeah.
Hoped.
I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe that he was going to be doing. He was done with war. wars. I wanted to believe that he was going to drain the swamp. And do you guys remember, like, I don't know how much you guys pay attention to what we do over here, but at the beginning of his presidency, there was this initiative with Elon. What was it called? Doge?
Doge. Yeah, Department of
Yeah,
Government
yeah,
Expenditure.
yeah. What happened to that?
Yeah.
That totally disappeared, right?
Yeah.
What happened to all
Yeah.
the money we saved from that? Yeah, I can tell you what
Fuck
happened
all.
to it.
Yeah.
They found out that fucking there was gajillions of dollars, and they were like, "Oh
Being
shit, we can't
wasted.
tell them about this."
Mm.
And also, it was just a distraction. It was like, look what we're doing. Look, we're
Yeah.
helping you guys. We
And
saved
remember-
we saved $800 million. You know what $800 million means
Yeah.
in the grand fucking scheme of things? Absolutely
in the
fucking
ocean.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
not a drop in the ocean.
Do you remember Elon Musk even said that, he was on, like, I don't trust Musk either. Like, I to be honest, and myself and I are kind of like this, we don't trust anything we're fucking told. Because, no, not saying that we are saying that it's wrong, but we're skeptical about everything.
Yeah,
Nothing.
you should be. Everyone
But-
should be.
Yeah, but Musk said on the Joe Rogan podcast, you probably saw it yourself that time after
Probably.
Doge, and he said, "Look, Joe, I have to be very careful what I say and about how much fraud that I try to dig up because." And then he does the usual Elon Musk thing of him doing his calculations in his head of what he can say, this and that, and he says, "Because they might kill me."
Did he? Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
So I saw that, and I go back and forth on things like that.
yeah, we're the same.
Because yes, that's probably true, but at the same time, you can't be the richest man in the world and not be read in on all this stuff, right,
Yeah.
guys?
And this whole
Yeah.
shit about him saying that if the aliens, if they did exist and if they were visiting, they're very subtle.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that, right? So what are we seeing right now as far as UFOs? Because I've never seen a goddamn UFO. Not one fucking UFO
Me neither.
in my whole life. Okay.
John's dream is to find a UFO, to see a
Me
UFO.
too. Me too. Me too.
I think we're wanting too much, Dave. I think we have to. It's nearly like, do you remember when you were going to a nightclub when you were younger, and if your whole goal in the night was, I'm gonna pull this blonde chick,
gonna pull some
whatever,
Dale,
with the
yeah.
with the nicest ass, and I'm gonna whatever. They're the nights you don't pull, as we call
Yeah.
it. But it's the nights that you don't go out. They're the greatest nights.
No, I think
with
you're
the-
right, man. I really think you're 100% spot on about that. But that brings into question what's a UFO, right? So there's the whole like mythology of UFOs, flying saucers, discs, blah blah blah, abductions. Fucking flying saucer comes down, abducts you, shit like that. But I've talked to a lot of people who are, quote, experiencers, and most of them, and also not just people I've talked to, but just people I've watched online, most of the time, it's not that. It's orbs. It's beings that like they can't explain with like rational words and things like that. And so I'm it's I don't believe this like wholeheartedly, guys, but I think the vast majority of UFOs are beings that we just don't quite understand with our consciousness. Whether we don't understand them through because we can't observe them correctly because we don't have that level of consciousness, or they're interdimensional, or they have technology that like just makes absolutely zero sense to us. But for the most part, I think that the disc that fucking abducts someone, blah blah blah, is a creation of the media, and or it's a replica of things that we've found either at archaeological sites or at crash sites. But the vast majority of UFO and UAP sightings are something that you can't quite explain. And when it comes to consciousness, I think of it as a scale, as a what is it called with autism? A
Spectrum.
spectrum. Yeah. Consciousness is a spectrum. Humans exist on that spectrum, right? Animals exist on that spectrum. There are some dogs that fucking get it, okay? And then there are some dogs that don't, right? There are some humans that get it, and there's some humans that don't, right? And if you think about how we cultivate like a zoo or a fucking ant farm in your own house, and you watch it and you watch how it behaves and stuff like that, that zoo or that ant farm doesn't really understand what you are. And that's what I think we're dealing with. And that's what I think the government knows, guys. I think the government knows that. I think the government knows that we're an alien ant farm, and they don't want to tell us that. They have some, yeah, they have a little bit. It's like a monkey finding a machine gun and being like, right, and then running out of bullets and then not knowing how to use the machine gun anymore, right?
Yeah,
That's
that's a
what
good
I
analogy,
think
man.
we are. Yeah, that's what I think we are when it comes to whatever we're dealing with, and I think the government knows that. And I also think that the government, and when I say the government, I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about, because I'm not talking about the congressmen and the people running for local, or the people running for, like, even, you guys call it
No.
federal government. What do you guys call it there? I don't even know.
Yeah, the
But
caretakers,
but
like caretaker rules. That's what
yeah,
they are.
I'm not even talking about them. I'm talking about the people on the inside of the inside. They know that we're on this spectrum of fucking biology and of
Mm.
consciousness, and that if they told us, we'd all lose our shit. We wouldn't lose our shit about a fucking UFO flying over the White House and then making contact with Trump, and then Trump talk. We would kind of lose our shit, but what we would really lose our shit about is that we're an alien ant farm. We're a fucking ant farm, and we're looking up, and because the scale of the universe is fucking is infinite, okay? But not just like, it's not just from our perspective. The scale of the universe is infinite from every perspective, okay? So if you think about it that way, there are life forms, because life exists everywhere. Microscopic life exists on the fucking outside of the space station. It exists on Mars. Okay. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about life and consciousness that exists on a far more scale. Because there's no reason to believe that we are the end of the scale. That's
No, it couldn't be.
ridiculous,
Not a
right?
hope.
Yeah,
No,
We're
yeah.
not the end of the scale of
no.
consciousness.
Might be the start of it. Pretty close to the start.
Well, yeah, that's just it, Niall. We could be like we could be closer to ants than we are to whatever's interacting with us as
Hmm.
orbs.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Mm.
And
absolutely. Yeah.
that is what would really cause ontological shock.
I'm with you, Dave, but I think I keep hearing this thing that's echoing, and I don't know if it's part of like propaganda or this. We always talk about this Project Bluebeam, no conspiracy again, like, but
Mm-hmm.
you'd hear Tim Burchett talk about it. I've heard Tucker Carlson talk about it. You guys probably have as well,
Yeah.
saying that I've heard about what the true story is behind this, and it is terrifying. That seems to be more from more than one source. Like, but is it terrifying? But is that misinformation given to them as well at the same time? Do you know?
It could be both.
Yeah.
It could be both misinformation and a little bit of the truth, that is terrifying. Because what's more terrifying than realizing that you're a fucking ant? You know?
Yeah.
Um, I can't think of anything that would cause more ontological shock than that. Um, I don't even think that most humans could comprehend that
Mm.
in a short period of time. Maybe over time they could comprehend that, but over like all of a sudden to be told, that, hey, guess what? Because we saw that. I don't know if you guys saw this on Fox News, but like Nords and different types
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The
um,
five types.
this is all Star Trek shit. Okay,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
that's not real. Um, there there may be biological beings that are maybe slightly elevated above us technology and consciousness wise,
Yeah.
maybe, that are interacting with us, but the grand truth of it all, I think, is fucking goes on forever. And that is like, I can't even, like, I'm telling you guys this right now, but like I don't really understand what that means. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
It's
what I
hard to
think
wrap
the
your head
UFO.
around. Yeah.
I think that's what the UFO UAP phenomenon is, for the most part. So, and that's why I think like psychedelics are connected to that, because
Mm.
people, they connect with these beings through psychedelics. Then they come back and they can't explain it properly. It's like having a fucking weird dream,
Yeah.
because it's beyond what our biology related to our consciousness is even able to comprehend. I mean, if you just look up and go, "Am I a fishbowl right now?" It's really it's really hard to wrap your brain around, because you got to go to work. You got to fucking pay your bills. A
Mm.
fish has to swim around your fishbowl and eat food and shit, and it's not it's very strange. So when it comes to like what we mentioned, disclosure, and what I call modern UFO disclosure, which is what we've been experiencing since 2017, it's a it's a slow drip of what they know that they think we can handle, that is being used for the purposes of control, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if the people above us, like the people who really know that we're a fishbowl, they go, okay, how can we use this to control the population?
Mm.
Mm.
That's it.
That's all it is.
They don't know what to
Yeah.
do about it, you know?
But we'll call it straight out. Like, I know that there has to be something out there. You know, Dave,
Of
there's
course.
something that has to be out there. And why should they be the gatekeepers?
Mm. They do
But
treat
there
us
you
like
go.
children.
They are the gatekeepers because they want that control. They need that control
Mm.
to be in
Well,
the positions.
they're the economic gatekeepers, you know,
Yeah.
and the world runs on the economy. And
Mm.
gosh, I watched this thing, and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I watched this thing the other day that I've known for a long time, but it just reinforced a bunch of it. Um, but they've been corralling the economy and corralling what money is and what money is worth since the 1940s, at least. Um, and that's what drives the world. But that's also what creates inflation, which makes a 1-bedroom apartment in Georgia cost $2,500 and $77 at the grocery store, and you didn't even buy food for me today, and that kind of thing. And I hate to say it, but when it comes to the control aspect, we are being corralled into a one world system that runs off of AI, that runs off of fake money, that runs off of fake media, that runs off of fake dopamine. And what I mean by that is you get your dopamine by playing video games and watching shit on the internet. You don't get your dopamine by building a fucking house or building a business or whatever. And you're just, and this is the this is the fucking Matrix. Like, it's the beginning of the Matrix. I mean, are they building data centers where you guys are at?
Yeah, I was just looking that up there the other day, and man, there's hundreds of them in Ireland.
Hundreds?
Same with you guys,
I just started going.
I think there's 125 from in Ireland or something.
Do they have something called eminent domain there? We have something called eminent domain here that's been used since like the 1800s. But the original purpose of it was like, we're going to build a railroad through your property because it's in the best interest of the country, but we'll buy it from you from a fair price. Now they're doing it with data centers. Are they doing that with like data centers in Ireland?
Well, they have definitely done that in Ireland. They've definitely done that when it comes to construction of roads and shit like that. Yeah.
Compulsory.
But are they doing with data centers?
I don't know about that.
It's called compulsory purchase in Ireland. It's a legal power.
Compulsory purchase, same thing. Eminent domain. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's built into your constitution. They're allowed to do it. So I met a guy. I work for a nonprofit organization, and I went to like an event for them. When was this? February, something like that. And my supervisor's husband like owns a AI first company that he started in 2018. And he told me flat out, by the end of this year, and then by the end of this year, 60% of jobs will be obsolete. And by the end of 2027, 90% of jobs will be obsolete. And maybe he's exaggerating, but we're about to see like a complete flip. It's like when they invented the musket, or when they invented the printing press, or when they invented whatever. But it's going to be that like times 1,000. I already use AI all the time for everything. Do you guys?
We all
Yeah. And so we're about to be reliant on these data centers, and we're about to be reliant on AI. And I don't think that the UFO UAP disclosure thing is I just don't think that it's a coincidence. That I think it's connected. I'm not entirely sure how, but if I were to guess, it would be, can we scare the shit out of you guys so that we can control you some more while all this stuff is happening?
Do you give in to the idea of, and at the start I thought it's just a bit too conspiracy. Like I'm a bit like Niall tell you there. I'm all in for some conspiracies, but I try to be like, I try to steel man them, as he say over your side.
You should.
Right. I try to, but like, but there's some of them I can't. But I'm going to a point now with this one, Project Bluebeam, and I'm like, fucking hell, it's playing out exactly like it would for that. But everyone's on about Project Bluebeam. One of the Kardashians is talking about it now. Like, it's just too. It's too mainstreamed, and there's no way it could be that obvious. I think if that was still their plan.
Yeah, I sometimes think like that. What we're experiencing is a slow, controlled mass awakening, but awakening in inverted commas, and where maybe we're the first fools, we're the first Mulders who think we've stumbled upon the truth, and we've been
Yes.
mocked and we've been slagged off by the normal people, but the normal people are starting to catch up with us now. They're starting to see, Jesus, some of these conspiracies have come true, but I think that maybe they're prepping us to sort of wake us up so that they can move us into this one world government. And I was going to ask you actually before we let you go, about that admiral that was on Fox News there the other day. Did you see that with the what looked like a mask? Did you see that around his neck? And
Oh,
I'm
I
just,
no, I
did,
saw
yeah.
to
that.
me, it looked so obvious that there's something up there that do they want normal people to become conscious of this? And with Jim Carrey as well, it was so
Yep.
weird. His face was so weird that like people who are not down the conspiracy rabbit holes at all are starting to pick up on this stuff now. And is that part of the controlled awakening?
I think so. I think so, Niall. A controlled awakening is a really good way to put it. Because, like I said, like my wife and her family, they don't pay attention to any of this shit, or didn't, and now all of a sudden they are. Um, if Kim Kardashian is talking about it,
Mm.
then you can bet that it's being put into the cultural consciousness on purpose.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to say one way or the other, like how far up the ladder this goes. But we've seen like how they've been able to mass control during COVID, um, to an unfathomable degree. And so, it's just crazy because it's hard to imagine that they can like create a narrative that goes global, but they did, right?
Yeah.
And they've been creating this narrative since the 1940s.
Mm.
And those are the first files we got, was from the 40s to the 50s, and then we
That's
got
right.
these
Yeah.
like 2000 to 2010 videos and stuff like that. And controlled awakening, that's an interesting way to frame it. Controlled awakening. Um because I don't think it's an awakening. I think it's a controlled. My wife's running down the stairs right now. I think it's a controlled narrative, just like everything else
Yeah.
is.
But
And I don't.
fooling the masses that they're being awakened.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I don't think that we can trust it.
Mm.
And I think that we should be skeptical about everything we see right now. Like everything. Like I get sent shit all the time where like it's not obviously AI, but it's kind of AI. And then you
Yeah.
look in the comments, and half the people are like, "Oh, think it's real," and then the other half are like, "This is AI."
It's AI.
And we're just at the beginning of that. Think about the mass control that they had over us in 2020 or 2001. The level of mass control that they're about to have with these data centers and with AI is going to be
Unprecedented.
unfathomable. Yeah, unprecedented. And we're just at we're not at the very beginning, but we're like close.
Mm.
And once we get over that hump where we're just not sure what's real and what isn't, um, it's every man for himself. It's every man for
It's
himself.
weird times,
And
man. It's
and
weird
we
times.
were talking about the like mass immigration, and I do believe that that's part of the plan.
Mm.
Like I do believe that having a global culture is imperative to having global control. And so, and in order to have global control, you need to have like control over mass media. And right now they do. That's all. It's all happening right now, right in front of our eyes. So it's gonna, guys. It's gonna be it's gonna be a wild ride in the next 5 to 10 years. I can tell you that.
Are you a Harry Potter fan?
No,
Yeah.
no,
No,
I
we'll be
never got
told
into
for
Harry
that shit,
Potter.
John.
I've seen a couple of the movies, but no, I'm not a Harry Potter fan.
I'm gonna send you on that clip, Dave. Just a link to it on YouTube. It's hilarious. I think it's The Prisoner of Azkaban. No, I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I watched some of the movies. And there's this crazy wizard bus, and there's this like head, small little head that's hanging off the front of the bus near the driver. And he says to Harry when Harry jumps on the bus, Harry, hold on, it's gonna be a bumpy ride. And they take off.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say it's hilarious. That's it.
That's exactly where we're at, guys. And there's no telling. Like, we're at the beginning of the invention of the printing press times a million. We're at the beginning of the invention of the musket times a million. We're at the beginning of the invention of the written word times a gajillion. Like, it's going to be weird. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dave, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. I feel like we could chat to you all night. I wish we could just meet you down the pub now
could.
for a couple of hours.
We could.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
someday I'll come visit Ireland and hang
Yeah,
out.
listen, we
Like
say
it.
this to all, we say this to most of the guests, but we'd love to have a chat with you again a couple of months down the road, you know, because
Yeah, for sure.
things are moving so fast that we won't be short of any subject matter anyway.
And even the stuff we talked, like I sent you of my first email to you when I reached out to you, Dave, mentioned about ancient. We didn't even get into ancient technology, ancient prehistory or
not at
anything
all.
like that. But like, there's so much for us to talk about. We definitely have to do this again if you're up for it.
Yeah, bring me on again. We'll talk about lost ancient history. That's a big thing that I've been thinking
Yeah.
about for a long time. For everyone who's watching, thank you for watching and listening to me rant. And subscribe to me on Dave's Multiverse on YouTube. Means a lot to me. So, and you guys,
Super.
hey. You guys are gentlemen and scholars. I really appreciate talking to you guys, and let's do it again.
Thanks a million, Dave.
Thank you so much,
Best of luck.
Dave.
Take care of yourself, man.
Talk to you soon.
Love, light,
God bless.
truth. Take care.
Thanks for listening. And if you like this and would like more, please subscribe and turn on notifications.